Unfinished business in 2017 has fueled the drive into the 2018 season as UTSA aims to leave no doubt about its postseason fate. Welcome to the start of another football season and another year of UTSA Football Insider. I'm Mike Lefko, your host for the next 30 minutes and for the rest of the season. Now, there's a lot to be excited about at the dawn of 2018. It's Frank Wilson's third year at the helm, and the depth of talent will be evident with new faces stepping in to fill starting roles on both sides of the ball. But because of who the Roadrunners did lose to graduation, 31-game starter at quarterback and a first-round pick on defense, the Conference USA media is a bit down on its preseason projection of where the Roadrunners will finish, selecting them 5th in the West. Take it with a grain of salt, though. Last year, North Texas was picked 4th in the West, but won the division. And after an unbeaten Conference USA slate a year ago, you see on the other side, FAU is the pick to stay on top in the East. Now here's a look at who's back on offense for UTSA. Familiarity in the run game with two starters on the O-line, plus fullback Halen Stewart could open up some big holes for senior Jalen Rhodes, the third leading rusher in Roadrunner history. Now Rhodes also ranks third on UTSA's career touchdown list with 17, including his single season record, 9 touchdowns in 2016. And on the other side of the ball, the defensive line anchors a unit that returns 6 starters. Balin Baker and Kevin Strong Jr. both started all 11 games last year and bring a combined 45 career starts to the table. Josiah Taua missed 3 games due to injury last year, but a healthy linebacker could mean a return to his 2016 Freshman of the Year form, where he racked up a season record 115 tackles. Now, Taua and Kevin Strong Jr. also garnered all-conference recognition, selected to the Conference USA preseason team in a vote by the league's 14 head coaches. Strong Jr. finished last year as the second-team All-CUSA pick, and it's the second straight year for Taua on the preseason team. Now, for more on these two defensive stalwarts and the rest of his team, here's head coach Frank Wilson. Pleased to be joined by head coach Frank Wilson. Coach, we always appreciate you taking the time here. For you, the start of another season, year 3 for you now as head coach. Does it ever get old, this excitement?
Oh, no, it never gets old. It's like Christmas every year. You get excited, you smell the grass, it's in the air, the aura of it. To start a new season is something that you work all year for 12 weeks, 13 weeks, and so really excited the start of this season.
How is this training camp different for you? You had a lot of new guys, a lot of stalwarts who have moved on, and maybe a lot of new faces to kind of figure out who they would be on the lineup. Yeah,
different in the sense because a new staff. We have a new coordinator in each position, offense, defense, and special teams. A lot of new players. The veteran players who we inherited as juniors are out the door now, and those guys who we recruited or who were in their sophomore or freshman years are now the upperclassmen. And so you see the maturation process of a team start to bear its head. So different in a sense of the transition.
You recently named a starting quarterback earlier this week. You said Cordell Grundy will be the starter against Arizona State. What led you to that decision?
Just the way that he performed in fall camp, the way that he conducted himself from a leadership standpoint this summer, this spring. You know, he was a guy that really took that next step forward and consistently displayed the things that we look for at the position.
Now, I know new team, new season. Does it help a little at all that last year you were supposed to start at home, you ended up starting on the road at a Power 5 team in Baylor. This year you're going to do the same thing, go start on the road at Arizona State. For the guys who went through that last year, does that help maybe get them acclimated and get ready?
You know, the irony is last year, last week, the week before was actually the hurricane. So school campus was closed that week, so we didn't have a preseason game number 3. Then the game was canceled, and we didn't have a game that week. So we missed 2 valuable weeks of development of our team due to the unfortunate situation with the hurricane. This year, we were able to play a preseason game number 3 and get a true final analysis of our team, and we look forward to going to Arizona State. So I think the guys that were here a year ago learned to adapt, and at times there's sometimes things that are beyond your control, and I thought we did a good job with that. It is gratifying this year for everything to be in play to allow us to be at our very best come next Saturday or this Saturday.
Well, Coach, it's going to be a fun one. We look forward to it, and we will talk to you next week.
Looking forward to seeing you.
UTSA and Arizona State met in a thrilling game back on September 16th, 2016. More on that later in the show. But the Sun Devils quarterback that day is still the Arizona State quarterback 2 years later. Manny Wilkins returns for his redshirt senior season after throwing for over 3,000 yards in 2017. And after Pete Golding's departure to Alabama, it'll be on the UTSA defense and first-year defensive coordinator Jason Rollins to slow down the Sun Devils' passing attack. Now from a guy who knows a little bit more about Arizona State and a lot about UTSA, the voice of the Roadrunners, Andy Everett. You have seen this team for many years. You saw Arizona State a couple years ago as well. But first, what do you take away from this edition of UTSA football?
Well, I think the Roadrunners are as deep as they've ever been at every position. I look at the roster, and there's 2 or 3 guys at every position that could step up and play. I don't know that are actual starters and second-team guys. I think they're all starters to some extent, and I think they can all kind of fill in for the other. And that's something we haven't seen in a long time, is the depth that Frank Wilson's been able to get through the last couple of recruiting classes.
Now, how about the opponent? Arizona State, is it the typical Pac-12 team, a lot of offense, or what do you expect from the Sun Devils?
Well, they do have a great wide receiver in N'Keal Harry, who will be here, and their quarterback, Manny Wilkins, was here a couple of years ago. We got a chance to see him. So I'm it's going to be kind of fun to see how those guys perform as they did a couple of years ago. Anytime you play a Pac-12 team, you know that they've got Power 5 conference talent. But I think UTSA has a lot of players that could be playing at the Pac-12 or any other Power 5 level. And I think that's what makes for an interesting game. 2 years ago, UTSA had a 3-score lead going into the fourth quarter, and they couldn't hold on. They were kind of a young team, and there are a lot of juniors and seniors that remember that well and would like another shot at the Sun Devils.
Herm Edwards, the coach of Arizona State, has not coached in the college game for a long time. There was some talk made about that. If he's not going to be ready for college football, is that overblown, or do you think they could be right for an upset?
I don't think coaches ever forget how to coach, and I don't think it matters what level of coaching you're at. If you know how to do it, if it's in your blood and you want to do it, and you can get fired up all the time, you can. The biggest difference is that kids of this generation are different than kids of a previous generation. And I think a lot of coaches that have been in the game for a long time have kind of transitioned year by year by year. We'll see how Herm Edwards is able to make that adjustment, having not done it for a long time.
Our thanks to Andy Everett. Plenty more coming up from him the rest of the season. Andy, thank you. We appreciate the time. Well, up next, we hear from the elder statesman in the backfield. Senior Jalen Rhodes is ready for his final chapter at UTSA. Welcome back to UTSA Football Insider. On an offense that's missing familiar faces from years past, one man stands out in the backfield. Jalen Rhodes enters this season as the entrenched starter at running back and as a mentor for a new crop of tailbacks. And for the senior, it's now starting to hit him that this is his final year in a Roadrunner uniform.
Yeah, it's getting to that point. It's starting to sink in.
For you, this past offseason, was it different at all now that it's your last year, it's your senior season, or was it kind of more of the same for you?
I mean, as far as like the routine and then preparation and everything, it was the same, but like my mindset, I guess, how I approached everything was a little bit different, knowing that, you know, my last few games are approaching me. So like I don't really know what the future has in store for me. So yeah, I'd say a bit of the same, but a little difference to it.
Has that sunk in yet? Last few games last year, and is it nerves or is it excitement?
It's excitement, but it's a little bit of nerves, and then just kind of the thought of change, like knowing that I won't be walking into the Alamo Dome anymore or leaving to get onto the bus with my teammates and stuff like that. Just, I don't know. I try not to think about it too much, but when it gets here, it'll be on my mind consistently.
I know you've said it before. You're kind of the old man on the offense. How does that feel?
Man, I'm starting to hate it now because the guys their jokes are getting kind of mean. I mean, like, yeah, I'm old, but I'm like not like the oldest guy to come through here. So, I mean, I enjoy it. Everybody somewhat looks to me as, you know, elder. I don't want to say father figure or anything like that, but they look to me as like somebody for support or something like that.
But it's more of a respect thing, right? Because you look at the offense and there are not a lot of returning senior starters. You're one of those guys. So for the younger guys, do they, you know, ask you questions as well because you are one of those older established players?
Oh yeah, I get quite a few questions every day. So Somebody always has something that needs to be answered, so I'd say, yeah, I'm the guy to come to.
Is that just something you embrace now? You realize, hey, this is, you probably had those too, right? You don't realize at the time, but.
Yeah, I didn't realize at the time, but yeah, I've always liked the David Glasgow's and BA's, Brandon Armstrong's, Brian Vaughn's. I had a lot of people help me while I was here at a younger age, so I feel like it's just my turn to give back and do that now.
What do you think about this running back group as a whole? You have you and you have BJ Daniels and then the San Antonio guy, Brendan Brady. How does this group look to you?
I'd probably say this is the biggest group of backs that we have. I mean, if you don't really include me, but you do, it's just everyone just has so much size and the speed is there and the power is there. So I just say this is a good group, but it's slightly different than what everybody's used to.
After 2016, when you had the 9 touchdowns, a ton of yardage, was last year maybe from a stat perspective a little disappointing, or is it still just kind of evolving into making you the player you are this year?
I mean, yeah, it was somewhat disappointing, but I mean, adversity hits at any time, and you gotta battle through it. So, I mean, yes, I'm not happy with my statistics from last season, but it is what it is. I'm going to continue to grind and get better. So, I'm not really worried about the past.
Is there something that you wanted to improve on? Maybe not necessarily that you noticed that was bad last year, but just to further enhance your game going into this year?
I really just want to focus on yards after contact and then being a bigger force in the receiving game. I feel like I can do a lot of things receiving out of the backfield, so just try to mix myself in there a little bit more.
You guys got those 6 wins last year, but then it was we only had 11 games. We're sitting there at 6-5, and they don't call UTSA for a bowl. How did that kind of carry over into spring practice and now going into this start of the season?
It carried over pretty well. I mean, a lot of people were disappointed. So when you leave a season with disappointment, you can't really focus on the next without that chip on your shoulder, without knowing that something didn't go right. So everybody's been gelling together, meshing together, and we're focused on one thing. So I'd say we were pretty motivated.
So maybe the simple question then, is that the goal? Have you guys set out, we have a definitive, this is what we want to
That is the goal.
this year?
The goal is to win and get to a bowl game and win the bowl game. Also win conference championship.
Now, if Jalen Rhodes thinks he's old, then what does that make for all of us? And speaking of kids these days, they're always on their phones, right? College and social media just go hand in hand. But what's the preferred app for the UTSA players? Now, in our first Off the Gridiron segment of the season, Valerie Lopez finds out where the UTSA student athletes are spending most of their time on their phone.
Twitter or Instagram?
I'm gonna have to go with Twitter.
Twitter.
Instagram.
Twitter.
I like seeing pictures better than just words.
Twitter. I feel like it has more variety. Yeah, a lot more content on it.
Instagram.
Twitter.
Twitter. Just to look at pictures and stuff. There's an explore page so you can see different things that's going on in this world. So,
Twitter.
You can do more stuff on Twitter. Instagram's just pictures.
I'm not a picture person, so I'd rather see, news. It's more news on Twitter than anything, so I like that.
I get all my, it's like the daily newspaper for me.
Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter.
Why is that?
I like to tweet. I don't take pictures.
I just feel like there's more on there. Instagram is not but pictures, but on Twitter you get pictures, videos, and then just a bunch of funny stuff people post, different just funny, different funny stuff. So.
1 year ago, UTSA's season opener was canceled when Hurricane Harvey made landfall. CJ Levine's hometown of Port Arthur was right in its path. How he persevered through an uncertain and trying time. Up next. Welcome back to UTSA Football Insider. We're getting ready for the season opener, but if you haven't already, get your tickets for the home opener next week and for the rest of the season at goutsa.com/tickets. There you'll find your go-to source for single game tickets, season tickets, plus a mini plan option. It's everything you need to know about how to make your game day experience at the Alamo Dome an enjoyable one. 1 year ago, UTSA was preparing for a season opener that would not happen. On August 26, 2017, Hurricane Harvey made landfall along the Texas Gulf Coast. Every sporting event was canceled, including UTSA's season opener against Houston. And for CJ Levine, it was one of the most agonizing and trying weeks of his life. His hometown of Port Arthur was submerged by water. Now a year later, Levine talks about how that week played out for him and his family.
stayed in contact with my parents, and then they ended up having to leave the house, which was for a first, because where we stayed, from the ground to our house is like very high, so I knew the water had to be very high to almost be able to reach.
26 inches of rain hit Port Arthur in a single day, leading to flash flooding that submerged the entire city. That included not just Levine's parents, but his sister, who has a young family of her own.
Well, I was worried about my sister because she had like her infant twins, and then her little boy wasn't able to help her out because he's 7 years old, and like he's not able to help out or anything like this. So that's another tough thing. She didn't have no help, and she was flooded out, standing in water.
When the rainfall finally stopped, a record 60.5 inches had poured down on Port Arthur. It decimated nearly every house and building in the city, and when Levine finally returned home, he was stunned by the devastation.
A lot of debris and a lot of like people cleaning their house, gutting their houses out, and like people not even staying in their houses, they staying in hotels and stuff. So it was just like, what am I coming home to? Like, this isn't home. This isn't what I'm used to seeing.
With his heart 300 miles to the east, the early part of the 2017 season took an emotional toll on Levine, but his teammates and coaches pulled him through and lifted him up during his toughest times.
Like, I was so down, and like I was so much thinking about what's going on at home, but that was out of my control, and I knew that was out of my control, so I was trying to do everything that I could that was in my power and in my control.
Levine recorded an interception in the home opener against Southern, but it wasn't until a week later against Texas State that he had the weight of his worry lifted.
I also got a chance to see my brother, and because he ended up coming down and helping out with my mom and them, and he's stationed in Japan right now. So that was a big thing. I haven't seen him for like 3-4 years. So it was a big thing for me to be able to see him and him to come to the game and like talk to me about the situation. And that like he had everything under control and that everything was gonna be all right. So I could be able to focus more on school and football.
1 year later, at the start of his final campaign, Levine is determined to mold his past experiences into the catalyst for a breakout senior season.
Just stay focused on the task at hand, because everything's not going to go your way immediately. You have to invest in this.
Levine and the senior class are ready for their final season opener, which comes against a team that they nearly beat 2 years ago. A look back at the 2016 matchup versus Arizona State when we return. Frank Wilson's first season began with a home win against Alabama State. 2 weeks later, the Roadrunners welcomed in Arizona State, a team that entered with a 2-0 record after piling up 652 yards of offense and 68 points against Texas Tech. And it was an offensive showdown that ensued on the night of September 16th, 2016.
Clock. Stern back to throw, looking, steps up in the pocket, runs away from everyone, now throws against his body, end zone caught at the 1 yard line, and it's a touchdown! Touchdown for UTSA! 25 to the 15, to the 10, a move to the 5, touchdown! Dalton Sturm dives into the end zone! Motion right to left, and back to pass, and they're going to throw a screen pass to Williams. Caught at the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the house. Touchdown, UTSA!
The interesting thing prior to the game, here's what we said to the team. I want to congratulate you because you're going to play well, and we'll have an opportunity to win this football game.
An entertaining night in the Alamo Dome that laid the groundwork for that bowl season. And last week, the UTSA fans were treated to another show, a de facto game day atmosphere, culminating in a scrimmage. Here are the sights and sounds from UTSA's Fan Day.
I know we're going to have a good team this year. Coach Wilson is ready, and so are we.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Me and my husband have been waiting all year. We've been waiting all year.
We've seen more season ticket holders, and we've been since day one. So we're excited for that because we know we're bringing in family around us, and our tailgate group is getting bigger. So we're excited.
And I love the smoke. Gets us prepared, and we all, whole group of us come over here, we line up and see the whole team and yelling as loud as we can. And I love that. That's been great since they started doing that.
Now, when you come out on a regular game, you got to get out here early. It's nonstop, all day fun. People are waiting all year long for it. It's just a whole mindset change.
As I walk down the stairs, I have people going, "Hey, we're back! Hi, glad to see you again. We're ready." So it's been awesome.
Our thanks to Valerie Lopez, Andy Everett, and everyone else who was a part of this show. Opening weekend of the football season doesn't get much better than this. And we'll be back next week to recap Arizona State and get you ready for the home opener against Baylor. Until then, thanks for watching.